Hey friends, this one's cold, not chilly, not drafty, not forgot to pack gloves cold. This is the kind of cold that stiffens your teeth and makes you question if your eyelids still count as skin. You're about to board a ship you won't leave again. If you like your history damp, desperate and barely breathing, go ahead and subscribe. And let me know in the comments what temperature your room is right now, just so we all feel worse. Alright, no warm-ups, you're in it now. The year's 1845. You're standing on the wooden deck of HMS Erebus, docked in Kent, scraping the last of your sea biscuit between molars that already hurt. There's salt in your lashes and grease on your sleeves. The ship smells like a wet rope slapped against the spoiled ham, and the men are louder than the gulls overhead. You've just been assigned to the Franklin expedition. The goal? Find the Northwest Passage. The odds? You try not to ask. You tighten the scarf you stole from a pub coat hook 3 weeks ago. It barely helps. The cold licks your ribs and settles in your knuckles. This isn't adventure. This is conscription in a floating coffin. You're 2 weeks out and already you hate the quiet. The open sea makes no sound worth hearing. Wind snaps the rigging like it's testing which ropes will last longest. Your hands are raw from hauling canvas and coiling line. You sleep below decks in a berth not long enough for your legs, sharing coughs and lice with 3 other men who breathe louder than they speak. The meals are a grim joke. Salt pork that tastes like candle wax, peas soaked in brine and regret, hardtack that cracks like floorboards under boot. You chew each bite twice as long just to fill the time. The officers stay warm. You don't ask how. Franklin's a proper man, they say, steady, devout, but you don't follow faces. You follow rations. The stove sputters weak heat through the belly of the ship. Each morning you wake with your breath frozen in your moustache and your toes doubting their job description. You think about the last time you touched grass. It already feels like something you hallucinated. When the ice appears, it doesn't announce itself. It just shows up one morning like a new wall where water used to be. You're made to chip at the edge with a pick that weighs more than your sense of purpose. The sun only shows up to laugh before dipping again. You can't tell what day it is. You can't tell if the ship is moving or if the world is just freezing around you. Everything creaks, wood on ice, ice on hull. You hear it in your teeth at night. The Erebus is trapped, and so are you. The Terror, Franklin's second ship moored close by, isn't faring better. They pass signals by a lantern. You stop reading them after a while. They're not messages. They're slow-motion panic. Every time you piss over the rail, your hands sting for an hour. And still, the officers smile like this is science and glory. You wonder if they feel the cold. You wonder what they're drinking behind that closed door. Then the men begin to rot. Not fast, not loud, quiet rot. Gums swelling, breath turning sourer than usual. You know what scurvy is, but you hoped it was a tale told by dock wives to keep you from sailing. Your gums bleed when you bite your biscuit now. You spit rust and pretend it's nothing. Some of the boys tie strips of cloth around their jaws to hide the smell. Others just stop smiling. Franklin prays. Crozier mutters. Officers pretend. You all know what's coming. The dogs are restless. The ones meant to pull sleds have begun to snap at each other. One was found half-eaten behind the stores last week. No one speaks about it. The air below deck smells like boiled piss and mould. You wipe the condensation from the inside of your hammock and try not to breathe too deeply. Nobody sings anymore, not even the cook. The ice groans louder now than the crew. One morning you're told to ready a sled party. Supplies are loaded. You're handed a pair of mittens that still smell like the man who last wore them. You don't ask what happened to him. You're told you're heading west. Mapping, science, survival. You march in a line of 12, dragging sleds that feel welded to the earth. The snow is a joke, soft where you need it firm and firm where you need it forgiving. Your thighs burn and your breath feels like boiling glass in your lungs. After 2 hours, you stop sweating. That's the part that scares you. Your piss steams in the snow, but your hands won't close properly anymore. At night, you huddle in canvas tents that trap more moisture than warmth. Everything smells like wool and ammonia. One man doesn't wake up. They leave him behind adrift, wrapped in sailcloth, face turned down. You keep walking. The map doesn't help. The land looks the same in every direction. White, flat, dead. You can hear your heartbeat in your ears. You keep thinking you see movement in the distance, but nothing ever moves. You dig with your hands because the shovel froze to the sled. The snow's crusted thick with wind-blown grit, and underneath it is nothing but more cold, like trying to bury something in frozen marble. The man you're covering didn't even have a name you knew, just Old Welsh, and he hadn't spoken in days before he stopped breathing. No ceremony, just the sound of mittens brushing over sailcloth. You cough and it sticks in your chest. Your spit hangs like syrup before dropping. Your thumb has gone white. You wiggle it too long, then stop. You don't want to know if it's still yours. The officers say 10 more miles before turning back. You'd laugh if you had the warmth for it. Your boots are crusted in piss from the last time someone slipped during a break. You smell it more than you feel it. The dogs are quieter now. They don't bark. They just stare, like they're waiting for you to fall first. You try not to meet their eyes. Back on the Erebus, they have built a second stove, smaller, closer to the sick bay. You're told it's to combat the chill. What it does is turn the air to wet soot. The walls weep with it. Your blanket sticks to your shirt when you rise. A man named Garnet collapses during his watch. They find his legs black up to the knee. Someone whispers the word amputation, but he dies before it's done. No one volunteers to clear his bunk. You eat what's handed to you, even though you haven't trusted the barrels in weeks. The biscuits now come with maggots, a sign they're still edible, someone jokes. You laugh because it's easier than chewing. The captain begins rationing the lemon extract. Too valuable, he says. You stare at the empty cup and imagine smashing it. Then you remember your hands are too swollen to make a fist. At night, the floor creaks above you. Sometimes from footsteps, sometimes from the ship shifting in its icy grip. You hope it's the latter. You can hate the ice. You're not sure how to hate the men. Orders come from Crozier. Franklin is dead. No one says how. They say it too quickly, like it's been rehearsed. You're told to prepare for overland travel. The Erebus is done, the terror is silent, everything that can burn is torn down for firewood. One man tears pages from his prayer book just to watch them blacken. You cut canvas into strips to wrap your ankles, because your socks disintegrated weeks ago. Your breath smells like rot. When you speak, it's with a voice 2 octaves lower. Everyone does. It's the cold dragging you down. You haul what you can, food tins with faded labels, a sketchbook no one's touched since September, a wooden box with silverware that no one has a use for anymore. You march across a world that looks like it died before you got here. Each day is a rehearsal for collapse. The sled sinks in powder. Your boots fill with blood. Your nose bleeds, but you don't feel it. The wind has no edge anymore. It's just pressure, like being slowly erased. The man named Peg goes first. Not from sickness, he just drops, mid-step. Doesn't reach out, doesn't cry out. His eyes stay open, watching a sky that won't acknowledge him. You stand over him for 10 minutes, not speaking. No one does. Then someone reaches for the tin of pemmican he was carrying. There's a pause, a breath, but no objection. Hunger speaks first now. You bury him with one boot still tied to the sled. The leather's too valuable. That night someone mutters a prayer and gets shushed. The canvas tent walls flap like a dying bird. You sleep with one arm around the food sack. The man beside you coughs blood in his sleep and doesn't wake. His name was Victor. You remember because he carved it into the sled handle the first week. It's still there. VIC. You run your hand over it and think it might outlive all of you. By the 3rd week, the snow has teeth. It bites through your trousers, chews on your calves. Your toenails have gone soft. You stop bothering with names. You refer to the man ahead as shoulders, and the one behind you as boots. You ration by eye, not by measure. The tins are dwindling, the dogs are gone. No one speaks of it. The bones are buried behind a bluff. You pass them daily. Each time the wind shifts, something howls. Might be air, might be memory, you've stopped caring which. The sun barely rises now. When it does, it looks sick. Like it's trying to forget it ever touched warmth. One of the officers tries to read aloud from a journal. You shut your eyes and hum just to drown it out. Words have weight now. You can't afford them. You carry yourself like a bag of grain. No pride, no posture, just motion, forward, because there's no such thing as back anymore. Your fingers are meat now. You know this because you watched a man cut his own off one by one with a rusted clasp knife. Didn't scream, didn't blink, just laid them on the snow like offering stones, said they'd gone dead weeks ago. You looked away before he picked them back up and dropped them in his pocket. You haven't asked why. You haven't asked anything in days. Your throat's dry, tongue like leather. You caught yourself trying to chew it once, half dreaming by the fire that barely lives, fed with scraps of crate wood and strips of boot heel. Everything smells like fat and smoke. One man tried to boil his belt. Another tried to eat the belt buckle. No one stopped him. It broke his tooth. He kept chewing. You turn your coat inside out every 2 days just to pretend it's different. The lice don't care. They're the only thing thriving out here. The map is a joke. A smudge of lines drawn by men who never walked this place. Crozier's orders are clear. Keep moving south. Reach the mainland. Find traders. Find rescue. The hope tastes sour in your mouth. Rescue is a word that got buried with Franklin. You stopped believing in it when the dogs vanished. Still, you walk. Each step is a gamble. One misstep and your ankle's gone. You've seen what that looks like. Swelling like sausage, skin splitting. One man tried to lance his with a bayonet. He didn't get far. His name wasn't spoken again. You carry a tin with maybe 2 spoonfuls left of what used to be peas. Now it's just mush and memory. You ration it by smell. If it doesn't make your eyes water, you eat it. If it does, you save it for someone you don't like. Camp is just a hollow in the snow now. No tents. Just canvas pulled over stacked sleds weighted with frozen limbs. You lie beside men who twitch in their sleep and sometimes don't wake. You don't bother checking anymore. If they're stiff in the morning, you drag them out and let the cold do the rest. One night, the man beside you starts laughing. Loud, gasping, teeth chattering. You slap him once, then again. He stops, no one says a word. You stare at your boots for 2 hours after that, pretending to be asleep. There's a patch on the heel that looks like a dog's eye. You've named it. You talk to it now. It hasn't answered yet, but you're patient. Conversation scarce. The sky cracks once, a sound like God splitting firewood. It's just the ice, but no one moves until it's silent again. You stumble on bones. Not yours, not fresh. Polished white and scattered in a ring half buried. A hand with no skin. A jawbone still clutching 2 yellowed teeth. You don't say a word. One of the men behind you whistles low, then kicks snow over it. You all keep walking. The wind picks up, dragging loose powder across the trail like a white veil. Visibility drops. You cling to the man in front by his belt strap. You've forgotten his name, maybe you never knew it. You call him back. He hasn't spoken in 3 days. You think he's from Liverpool or maybe Cardiff. You don't care, you just need his boots to keep moving. He stops, coughs something wet into his sleeve, then trudges on. You follow. You always follow. You've stopped pretending you're going somewhere. You're just trying not to be last. One morning the sky's too quiet. The wind's gone. No birds, no frost snapping branches, just the creak of your joints and the slow breath of bodies trying not to quit. You melt snow for water. It smells like ash, tastes like cloth. Still, it's better than nothing. You share it with the man beside you, but he doesn't drink. He just stares at the cup, like it's asking something he can't answer. You take it back before he spills it. The firewood's gone. You burn scraps of clothing now. Buttons pop and hiss. Someone jokes that it's the last time you'll hear a waistcoat scream. You don't laugh, you're too tired. When the sun comes up, it doesn't rise. It just leaks over the horizon like old oil, then retreats. You rub your hands together, feel nothing. You try again. Still nothing. You wake up to chewing. Slow, deliberate, not the kind you hear at supper, not that there's been one of those in weeks. This is private chewing, animal chewing. You don't open your eyes right away. You listen, count the clicks of teeth, smell the faint reek of something boiled in desperation. It's coming from 2 bedrolls over. You roll your head, stare through a hole in the canvas. The fire's out. The light is ash grey. You see the man's shoulders hunching, his hands cupped around something. You hear a wet tear, you close your eyes again. You pretend to sleep. You're not hungry enough to ask. Not yet. Later someone mentions that Owen's gone. No one saw him leave. No one's calling after him either. You glance at the stew pot now wiped clean. You say nothing. You don't ask questions you already know the answers to. The snow deepens and the wind returns. It howls like it missed you. You pull canvas tighter over your shoulders, cinch your coat where the buttons are gone. One man loses his boots crossing a frozen stream. The ice swallowed them in one gulp. He makes it 2 more hours barefoot before collapsing. His feet look like raw meat wrapped in rags. He begged for fire. You gave him a prayer. The fire was for the living. Someone said that out loud. You can't remember who. The next morning, the frost has turned his face to cracked leather. His fingers are gone, stripped, not broken. A dog couldn't have done it that neatly. You all keep walking, there's no debate anymore. Morality lost its voice somewhere back by the terror. What's left is instinct and frostbite. You reach out to what looks like a cairn. Rocks, piled carefully, marked with a tin tag. Someone's grave, Franklin's maybe, or just someone with the sense to die early. You take shelter behind it. The rocks block half the wind. You dig out a dent in the snow and crouch, knees to chest, arms around shins. You think about how this all started with polished boots and naval uniforms, how they marched you aboard with smiles and telegrams, and how now you'd kill for a scrap of whale blubber or a match head. You chew the inside of your cheek until you taste iron. You pull your coat tighter. One of the men mutters about rescue again. You want to laugh. Instead you cough, and a string of phlegm hangs from your lip. You let it freeze there. It's the only thing your body can still produce. Another week passes, or maybe 4 days. Time doesn't mean much now. You mark it by who's still breathing. Someone builds a sled from a broken door and spare bone. It creaks like it knows what it's carrying. The man pulling it is barely standing. You watch him lean into the rope, eyes vacant, feet dragging. You see the stains under the tarp, you don't ask. The meat's shared quietly. Paper-thin slices passed with eyes down. It tastes like leather and shame. You chew slowly. You chew because stopping would be worse. One man refuses. He dies a day later, muttering about salvation. You cover him in snow and don't mark the spot. No one's keeping records anymore. The ice doesn't care for your maps or prayers. It just waits. You dream of warmth now, not fire. Warmth. The kind that settles behind your knees and in the space between your neck and collar. The kind you used to complain about in summer, sweating through a shirt. You miss it so much it aches. The wind scours your face like sandpaper. You wrap a scarf over your mouth, but it ices over in minutes. You leave it anyway. It's not for warmth anymore. It's to feel like you're trying. Your hands don't work right. You've dropped your cup twice today. It's metal. The rim has torn the skin on your lip. You don't care. The man next to you tells a story about a girl he met once in Halifax. Her name was Lorna. She played the fiddle. He says it like he's reading someone else's memory. You nod like you knew her too. You pass a frozen inlet that looks like a cracked window pane. Beneath the surface, air bubbles stretch in long fingers, locked in place forever. One man stops, staring into the ice like he expects to see something move. You wait. His breath clouds the surface. He whispers something, maybe a name. Then he moves on. You don't ask. No one does anymore. Talk wastes heat. You drag the sled another few hundred feet before stopping. Your arm's numb halfway to the elbow. You shake it hard, the fingers twitch. Good enough. You sit on your heels and pull a scrap of salted something from your pack. It's stringy. Could be beef, could be not. Doesn't matter. You chew with your molars because your front teeth feel loose. A man sneezes behind you, and someone flinches like it was a gunshot. You glance at the horizon. Nothing but blue-white death. You pull your hood lower and keep chewing. Later that night, someone sets a fire using pages torn from a field journal. The flames are pale and reluctant, barely enough to warm a thumb, but it's still fire. You sit close, feel your boots steam, smell the damp rising off your clothes like boiled cloth. The fire dances over cracked knuckles and hollow faces. One man holds his hands to it like he's praying. Another pokes it with a fork, chasing heat. You don't speak. Fire makes people remember things they shouldn't. Family, songs, hot food, things that don't belong here. You stare into the centre until your vision blurs. The paper curls and blackens, words disappearing before you can read them. Maybe that's for the best. Nobody here needs reminders. When the fire dies, everyone scatters like rats. You wrap yourself tighter and press your back to the sled. You sleep in jerks, each dream cut short by cold or noise. Your nose bleeds again. You wipe it with your sleeve and suck air through clenched teeth. Somewhere nearby, someone's crying, soft, repeating the same 3 words. You hear "I was warm," or maybe "I want mum." It doesn't matter. You don't move. You let the words drift like smoke, then vanish. When you wake, the man who cried is gone. No one mentions him. You check the food sack, lighter. You say nothing. The sun hasn't moved. You wonder if it ever will again. You try to remember what spring feels like. Not the flowers or birds, the air. The way it lifts instead of pressing. You can't. Your brain won't conjure it. You picture your old bunk at the dockyard. The mould on the ceiling, the leaky tin roof. It feels like luxury now. You'd kill to hear a rat scratch at the floorboards. You miss the smell of coal smoke and piss. The familiar stink of home. Out here, even the filth feels foreign, sterile, ancient. The cold has no accent. It speaks one language and it's made of endings. You feel it in your molars, in your spine, but you flex your toes for the 100th time today. They don't respond. You stop trying. A man named Sellers tries to desert. He walks off while the others are boiling snow. No gear, no food. Just walks. You see him vanish behind a drift and think, maybe he's right. Maybe walking's the only honest choice left. They find him a few hours later, face down, arms buried beneath his chest like he was trying to hug the earth. The cold turned him blue, his lips peeled back from his teeth. Someone jokes that he looks like he died laughing. No one laughs. You drag his body behind the rocks and cover it with a flag you found in the bottom of the supply chest. British colours, stiff as bark. You leave the pole, it's too heavy to carry. The flag flaps once in the wind before going still. It doesn't feel like tribute. It feels like a joke. You walk away from Sellers without a word. Nobody prays. Prayers froze weeks ago. The new camp is just a hollow in a ridge, half sheltered from the wind but open to everything else. You build windbreaks from dead men's crates and line them with ripped tarpaulin. The cold comes from underneath now, from the rock. You feel it rise through your spine like breath in reverse. You crouch, knees to chest, hands tucked under armpits. You've stopped using your mittens. They were too stiff with blood. You run your tongue over your teeth. One feels loose. You don't test it. You don't want to see what comes out. You hear a story that night. Not a memory, not a hallucination. An actual story, told low, like contraband. One of the stokers talks about a man on the Terror who claimed he saw figures moving across the ice at night. Not men, tall, silent. Watching, said their eyes were holes and that their breath came out black. You wait for someone to call it nonsense, but no one does. You all just sit, backs pressed to canvas, eyes on the dark. Part of you hopes it's true, that there's something else out here, something with teeth, something worse than you. The wind picks up, a creek passes through the ridge, deep and long. You shift your weight and try not to breathe too loudly. A tin slips from someone's hands and clangs on the rock. Everyone jumps. It's the loudest thing you've heard in hours. The man who dropped it scrambles after it like it's rolling into hell. You watch him fumble, knees scraping, hands bare. He catches it. His lip splits open when he smiles. You look away. Smiles don't belong here. You shift in place, bones groaning like old ship timbers. You haven't stood upright all day. Your spine's beginning to shape itself to the bend. You press your back to the sled, breathe through your teeth, and stare at nothing. Snow begins to fall again. Fine powder, like powdered glass. You let it coat your lashes. You're too tired to blink. By morning, someone's missing again. No one mentions it. You all step over the empty bedroll like if it was a part of the snowpack. One of the younger boys, Hicks maybe, pulls a bone from under the sled tarp. He doesn't flinch, just stares. You wonder if he even sees it. You tell him to toss it. He doesn't. He puts it in his coat. The day's march is short. You're conserving strength, they say. What it means is fewer of you can walk. One of the officers collapses halfway through the hike. You strip his pack and keep moving. By sunset, he's forgotten. You boil leather scraps in a tin mug. Drink the broth like it's soup. It tastes like mud and spit. You give thanks anyway. That night you hear something in the dark. Not wind, not boots, a scrape, a shuffle. You sit up too fast and get dizzy. The world tilts sideways, but you grab the sled frame and ride it out. You squint into the night. See a shape. 2, they vanish before you can speak. You wait for someone else to stir to say they saw it too. Nothing. The men are still. You lie back, heartbeat loud in your ears. The stars above are cruel and sharp, like broken glass punched through a velvet sheet. You stare until your eyes water, then burn. The cold presses against your ribs, under your collar, between your knees. You want to scream just to make noise, but all you do is blink. When morning drags itself across the ice, it doesn't change anything. No warmth, no birds, just a little more light to see what hasn't improved. You stretch your legs, feel something snap in your left calf and decide to ignore it. Someone's coughing blood. You can hear the wet in their lungs. You don't turn your head to look. The less you witness, the fewer ghosts you collect. A new man joins the group from the terror's camp, what's left of it. He's gaunt, teeth-stained black, boots wrapped in some sailcloth. He doesn't say his name. No one asks. You make room for him around the sputtering fire. He carries a sack tied tight with rope and won't let it go. Even when he sleeps, it stays clutched to his chest like a child. You try not to guess what's in it. You march again. Short distance. No sleds today, just what you can carry. The wind has picked up a new sound, a low hum, almost like singing. You don't know if it's in your head or not. You check your ears for blood. Nothing. Good enough. The stranger from the terror walks near the front, still holding his sack. His shadow stretches too long in the weak light. You try to remember if shadows are supposed to look like that. You step in a soft spot and your leg sinks past the knee. It takes 2 men to pull you out. Your boot stays behind. You tie rags around your foot and hobble. Each step feels like walking on needles. You keep moving. The cold doesn't wait. One man stops mid-step and drops his pack. Just stands there, blinking at the sky. His lips are blue, but he's smiling. You call to him. He doesn't answer. He closes his eyes like he's listening to something. Then he drops, boneless, like a puppet with its strings cut. No one moves to help. Someone says his name, someone else says it wasn't his name. Doesn't matter. You step around him. The snow's too hard to bury him, and you're too weak to try. The sun blinks behind a cloud and disappears again. You forget how long it's been since it stayed in the sky, long enough to cast a shadow. You forget if it ever did. That night you share a blanket with 2 other men. No one speaks, breath is hoarded. Heat is pooled like treasure. Someone's skin sticks to yours, damp and shaking. You let it. It's warmth. It's life. You wake with their arm across your chest, and for a second you think of your brother. Then you remember your brother died in Portsmouth before you shipped out. Whoever's lying next to you now is just a shape, a pulse, a mouth that might still chew if offered something. The sack from the terror man is still clutched tight. You count 10 men now, total, down from 36. You've stopped noting when someone vanishes. It's just subtraction now. One of the boys tries to hum. Not a song, just sound. It cracks halfway through, his throat too dry. You listen anyway. It reminds you of something you don't want to remember. The ice cracks in the distance, a low moan that makes the snow under your hips shudder. You sit up, rub your eyes, and watch the stranger from the terror lean over someone sleeping. Too long, too still. Then he straightens and walks back to his place by the fire. The sack in his hands is heavier now. You lie back down, close your eyes, breathe through your mouth. You don't sleep, but you don't get up either. You find a spoon in the snow, bent, blackened at the bowl. You stare at it longer than you should, like it's some ancient relic. You think about keeping it. Then you think about where it might have come from. You leave it. A man coughs behind you. The dry kind at first, then wet, then sudden silence. You don't turn around. You tighten your coat around your ribs and walk. The horizon's still empty. Always is, just white and more white. You squint, eyes half frozen. Your lashes stick when you blink. You spit into your glove just to feel something warm. It's stringy and pink. You wipe it away, keep walking. You pass a pile of rocks that looks like it used to be something. Maybe a cache. Maybe a warning. Either way, you don't stop. You eat something that might be seal, or might not. You don't ask where it came from. You don't ask whose knife cut it. You chew, mouth dry, nose numb. It's greasy, and it clings to your teeth like tar. You swallow hard and keep your eyes on the ground. The terror man chews slower than the rest. You wonder if he enjoys it. You hate that you wonder that. The sack is still at his feet. He touches it sometimes, like someone petting a sleeping dog. You drink melted snow boiled in an old tin lined with soot. It tastes like iron and a regret. The inside of your mouth is cracked. You run your tongue over the wounds like there's something to count. They are. You wake to silence. No wind, no coughing, no shifting, just silence, like the world is holding its breath. You open your eyes. The snow outside the windbreak glows pale blue. For a moment it looks peaceful, then you hear it. Crunching. Slow. Rhythmic. Not footsteps. Chewing. You roll to your side, the fire's out, the sack is open. The terror man is crouched, back turned, body blocking whatever he's hunched over. You don't move, you don't speak, you just stare until your eyes water. He shifts, and something falls from his lap, a hand still gloved. You close your eyes again. You stay like that until the sun comes back. In the morning no one talks. The fire gets lit again, but no one gathers around it. Everyone sits in pockets, facing different directions. You eat in silence. You don't ask where the extra rations came from. You chew, you swallow, you keep it down, that's enough. The terror man packs up early, shoulders the sack, and moves to the front of the column. No one stops him. He's leading now. You let him. Your legs ache so much you want to scream, but you don't. You just walk. The snow has turned crusty and uneven. Each step snaps. Each step hurts. That's how you know you're still alive. That night a blizzard comes. Hard, fast, like it was waiting for the right moment. The camp dissolves in wind and powder. You lose your shelter. You crawl behind a sled and curl into the smallest shape you can. Snow fills your collar, your boots, your ears. The wind screams. You bite the inside of your cheek to stay awake. Somewhere someone is yelling, then screaming, then nothing. You wait for the wind to stop. It doesn't. You pass in and out, sleep, panic, sleep again. When it breaks, hours later, the world is smooth, clean, erased. Half the camp is buried. You dig with your hands. You find one man, frozen mid-crawl. You find no others, just the sack untouched. You don't know how long you stare at the sack. It's tied shut. Same knot as always. Same soot-dark fabric. The terror man is gone. Not buried, just gone. No tracks, no trail. Like he walked out before the blizzard and melted into it. You crouch beside the sack, touch it. It's warm. Still warm. That shouldn't be possible. You pull your hand back and look around. 4 men left now, including you. One's digging with a mess tin, trying to find his boots. Another's staring at the sky like it owes him an apology. No one mentions the sack. No one touches it. You move it behind a drift and leave it there. If someone takes it, you won't stop them. The march resumes, if you can call it that. It's more like a stagger. Your legs forget the rhythm, your hips creak. You fall twice before noon, crack your chin on a frozen rock the second time. You taste blood, spit out a tooth. You don't tell anyone. There's nothing anyone can do. You tie your scarf tighter and keep going. Your foot's infected, that you can smell it, like wet bread and old cheese. You think about cutting it off. You think about walking into the wind and lying down. Instead, you keep going, because that's what's left. There's no reason, just movement. Forward is the only thing that hasn't betrayed you. Someone finds a seal carcass half buried in a drift. Could have been days old, could have been years. Doesn't matter. You carve at it with a clasp knife dulled by too much bone. The flesh peels like old rubber. You boil it with snow and pass the pot around. No one makes eye contact. You don't know the names of the two men sitting beside you. Or maybe you do. Maybe they're just the names of the last ones who died. It's hard to tell. You eat in silence. Swallow hard, keep it down so your belly cramps later, but you don't stop eating. Hunger makes the rules now, you just follow them. At night, one of the men slips into a hole under the ice. He was pissing 1 foot forward, then gone. You heard the splash, then the thud. By the time you got there, the water was still. No bubbles. You saw his cap floating. No body. Just gone. You walk back without speaking. The other man, the last one, nods once. That's it. Now it's two. You and him. He offers you the last of his biscuit ration. You break it in half, hand it back. It tastes like sawdust and acid. You chew anyway. He says he was from Leeds. You nod. You say you're from nowhere. He nods again. Then neither of you speak for the rest of the night. By morning the wind has changed again. Warmer somehow. Wet. Heavy. It sticks to your skin like spit. Your coat is soaked through and it hasn't even snowed. You both smell like a butcher's floor. Blood, sweat and meat. You pack up what's left. The last tin. A spoon. A length of rope. You don't bring the sack. You don't even check it. You just leave it buried in that drift. It doesn't belong to you. The two of you walk. Step, drag, breath. Step, drag, breath. The ice glows grey underfoot. You keep looking up, hoping to see a tree, a shadow, a boat, anything not white. But there's only the same blank silence waiting to outlast you. That night you dream of warmth again. Not fire this time. Sun. Real sun. The kind that presses against your shoulders and makes sweat bead in the crease of your neck. You dream of linen, damp with heat, stuck to your chest as you dig a trench back home. You wake with your hand clenched in the snow. It takes a minute before you can feel the fingers again. The man from Leeds is gone. No note, no tracks, just his blanket folded and a strip of cloth tied to the sled handle. You don't check the sled. You know it's lighter. You drink snowmelt that tastes like rust and think about walking, just walking, until something stops you. The first bird you see in months is dead. Frozen stiff, wings folded like an unfinished prayer. You find it on the edge of a ridge, half buried in wind-packed snow. You pick it up. It crumbles in your hands. Hollow. Empty. Like everything else out here. You want to laugh, but your throat clicks instead. You sit. Eat the last of the biscuit. You suck it until it softens. It tastes like mould and glue. You chew, it hurts. You keep chewing. You tear a strip from your blanket and wrap your foot tighter. The skin's peeling now. You try not to look at the colour. Just keep the pressure on and hope it keeps the rot from spreading. You start talking to yourself out loud. Not in full sentences. Just little pieces. Keep left. Watch the wind. Don't look. Your voice sounds wrong. Too high, too rough. Like it's been borrowed from someone already dead. You say your name, just to remember it. You say it again, Sophia, then forget it for the rest of the day. You don't remember eating, you don't remember setting up camp, you only remember waking up in the dark and not knowing where you are. You pack your coat until you feel the spoon. That's your only proof you're still the same person from yesterday. That, and the pain in your right foot. Still there, still alive. A dark shape appears on the horizon. Not a man, not a sled. Something angular, something still. You walk toward it. Step, drag, step, drag. The shape doesn't move, doesn't grow. You think maybe it's just a trick, a rock or a chunk of ice shaped like a mast. But it's real. It's a cairn. Stone piled carefully, tied with rusted wire. Someone built this. Someone stood here and made this. You crouch beside it, press your hand to the rocks. They're dry. That shouldn't make sense, but it does. There's a strip of canvas under the top stone. You pull it free, no writing, just red-stained cloth. You put it back. You stay there for the night. No tent, no fire, just the cairn at your back and your arms across your chest. You don't sleep, not fully, you drift. In and out. Your dreams are wrong. You hear music where there's only wind. You smell bread where there's only blood. You feel a hand touch yours, soft, warm, and wake to find you're alone. The wind dies before dawn. The silence is worse. You push yourself upright and your hip screams. You welcome it. You'd rather scream than disappear. You check your pocket. The spoon's still there. You whisper your name again, just once. Then you start walking. The sky turns purple around noon, a thin, bruised shade that makes the ice glow strangely from below. You walk toward the horizon because there's nothing else to do. Your feet have stopped bleeding. That's not good. You prod your heel with the spoon once just to check. No pain, you laugh once loud and dry. The sound scares you. You stop. Your throat feels scraped. You see shapes in the snow sometimes, not real ones. Bits of coat, bits of face. You blink, and they're gone. You talk to them anyway. The voice you use isn't yours anymore. It's hoarser, cracked like a ship's hull. Still, it's company. You call one of the shadows Tom. He doesn't answer, but he never leaves, said he never leaves either. You find something under the snow. Wood, blackened, burnt ends. You drop to your knees and dig with your hands until your nails tear. It's a barrel stave, part of a crate maybe. Could have been from the Erebus. Could have been from anywhere. You pull more free. A broken fork, a buckle, a strip of boot leather hardened like bark. You sit back and hold the fork in your lap. You almost cry. Not for sadness, but because your hands remember the weight. You turn it over, bite it once, just for the feel of it. Then you slip it inside your coat. Not for use, just to carry. Something that isn't you. You build a fire with the scrap, it burns hot for 5 minutes, then smokes and sputters. You crouch over it like a miser, hands spread, nose close. You catch a flicker of warmth behind your eyes, and for a second, you're sitting in the galley again, someone joking about the cook's wife and how he'd rather marry the soup. You blink and it's gone, just ash and steam. You don't mind. Even false memories are warmer than this. You eat the last shred of seal meat you'd tucked in your glove. It's mostly tendon now, but it gives your jaw something to do. You suck on it like a prayer, then spit out the gristle and watch it freeze where it lands. The next morning you smell something. Not smoke, not death. Salt. Real salt. Brine. It grabs your nose like a hook. You follow it, half running, stumbling through a patch of wind-flattened snow, until you crest a ridge and see it. Water. Open water. Black. Wrinkled, shivering under the wind. You drop to your knees. Laugh. Cry. Cough. All three. You crawl the last stretch until your hand touches slush. You taste it. Salt. Cold. Real. It means you're close to something. Maybe land. Maybe trade routes. Maybe nothing. You don't care. You strip your glove and press your whole hand into the water just to feel it hurt. You set camp by the waterline using a drifted piece of hull as a windbreak. You stare at the water until your eyes glaze. You see nothing. No ships, no sails, no hope. Just dark ripples crawling inland. But you stay. Because moving means leaving the only thing that feels alive. You talk to the waves. You tell them what happened. You name the men who died one by one, or the ones you remember. You whisper apologies to the ones you ate. You lie flat against the snow and listen to the ice groan beneath you. It sounds like breathing. You close your eyes and pretend it's someone else's. You wake up with your cheek frozen to the ground. When you pull back, it tears. The blood freezes before it can drip. You sit up, blinking through crusted lashes. The sea's still there. That part wasn't a dream. You crawl closer. Dip your fingers again. You pretend the sting means you're healing. You wonder what part of the map this is, if there's even a name for this patch of godless shoreline. You imagine it marked in red ink, unsurveyed, unclaimed, unforgiving. You stand on legs that scream. They'll hold just barely. You squint into the morning and see nothing. The world's too wide and you're too small. You turn inland. One more day, one more mile, then maybe you quit. You follow the edge of the water. Ice chunks drift like bloated corpses, bumping each other with slow, tired rhythm. You count steps to pass the time. After 100, you start over. You hum tunelessly, you name each step. This one for Crozier, this one for Garnet, this one for the dogs. You try not to remember their faces. You fail. You feel their breath again, the way it hung in the air before vanishing. You wonder if you'll vanish like that, a curl of mist no one bothers to name. You stop thinking. You just walk. You see smoke, not from your own fire, dark smoke from a distance. It leans sideways in the wind. You blink twice, still there. You drop to your knees. Either it's real, or you've finally cracked. You don't care. Either way, you're moving. You crawl at first, then stagger, then walk. The smoke grows, thick, charcoal grey. Your pulse returns. You feel your fingers twitch. You taste adrenaline in your throat like copper. You crest a rise, expecting a rescue party. A trader's hut. Anything. What you find is a wreck. A burned-out structure. Wooden frame collapsed. Canvas shredded. Blackened tin still smouldering. No people. No sound. You pick through the ashes with your spoon. It's melted at the edge now. The heat bit it. You sift through soot and splinters. You find a boot heel, a buckle, part of a frozen hand, ring still on the finger. You sit, laugh, not because it's funny, because it's cruel. The fire didn't save them either. You stare at the ring until your eyes cross. Then you bury the hand under a chunk of driftwood. Not out of kindness, out of habit. You sleep beside the wreck that night, curled like a question mark. You don't dream, not anymore. In the morning, something changes. The wind shifts and you hear voices. Faint, muffled. You stand, heart pounding. You call out, nothing. You walk toward the sound, slipping, stumbling. You crest another ridge and freeze. Shapes, real ones, people moving, cutting across the ice in the distance, not in uniform, not your crew. You wave your arms, shout, collapse. When you wake, there's a tent above you, canvas, warm, the smell of stew and tobacco. You think someone says your name, you don't ask who they are. You just let the heat in. You close your eyes and cry like something thawing. They feed you with a spoon, slow and clumsy. Your lips crack as you chew. The broth tastes like fat and salt and something green you haven't tasted in a year. You cough halfway through the third bite and someone pats your back. The hand is soft, not calloused, not one of yours. You blink up and see a man with weathered cheeks and a thick scarf wrapped over his beard. He says something. You miss it. He tries again. You're lucky, maybe. Or you're last. Doesn't matter. You're not alone. The heat sinks into your bones like smoke curling under a door. You wrap your arms around your ribs and rock slightly. Your teeth chatter, even though the air is warm. Shock, someone says. You don't correct them. Let them call it whatever they like. They ask questions, not right away. They wait 2 days. You lie in a cot, blanketed and bandaged, half watching the frost bead against the tent walls. When they finally ask, you don't speak. You just nod, shake your head, shrug. You forgot some of the answers anyway. The names, the dates, the numbers. They ask how many. You hold up fingers. They ask how long. You point to your feet, to your cracked boots, to the spoon around your neck. Someone writes it all down. Someone else watches you sleep. They don't ask about the sack. You're grateful. You don't know what you would say. When you're strong enough to walk, they take you outside. It hurts. Not your legs, your eyes. The snow is blinding. You haven't seen sunlight like this in months. You squint, tears streaking down your cheeks, freezing mid-drip. They lead you to the wreckage. You recognize nothing. They say this used to be an outpost, a hunting station, caught fire 2 weeks before you arrived. They lost 3 men. You nod. You think about the ring, you don't say anything. You glance toward the shoreline. You see no ships, but you hear gulls. That's something. That means the world's still spinning, that someone out there hasn't frozen yet. You sleep more than you speak. The dreams come back. Not good ones, not bad ones, just endless ones. Ropes that never tie, boots that never fit, fires that never start. You wake in sweat. They wipe your forehead with rags soaked in something that smells like cloves and pine. You drift. The men argue in low voices. You catch pieces. Crozier. Survivors. Cannibal. You let the words hang. If they want stories, they can tell their own. You already lived yours. You have nothing left to give except silence. And one bent spoon, now strung on a bit of leather and worn like a medal. One morning they hand you a journal. Blank. They say you can write what happened if you want. You flip the pages, feel the grain of the paper under your thumbs. You think about it. You picture the bones, the sleds, the sack. You imagine trying to describe the taste of meat you didn't ask for, or the way snow screams under dying boots. You close the journal, set it down, say nothing. That night you throw it in the fire. The pages go fast. The heat feels good. You pull your coat tighter and look out across the ice waiting for the next sound. The first time you see your face again, it's in the back of a ladle. Warped. Smudged. Your nose looks wrong, crooked. Your cheeks are gone. Your eyes are older than the sun. You stare at the reflection until your hand starts shaking. You put the ladle down. Someone calls your name, the real one, not the one you've been whispering to yourself. You don't answer. They say it again, this time softer, like they're afraid of breaking you. You turn, nod once. That's all you have. You haven't spoken in 3 days. Your tongue feels like it's coated as soot. They bring you stew. You eat it one bite at a time, handshaking. You finish it. That's something. They talk about extraction, about ships, about letters home. You pretend to listen. You're staring at a nail in the tent pole, counting how many times the wind whistles through the seam. You think about the last time you wrote a letter. Probably aboard Erebus. You wonder if it was ever sent. You hope not. You don't want that version of you to reach anyone. He was too proud, too sure. You lie back down, close your eyes. The spoon at your chest is warm from your skin. You press it flat. You think about carving something into it. A name. A word. You don't. When the ship comes, it's smaller than you expected. A whaler. Norwegian. Salt-stained and stinking of fish oil. You step aboard with legs like twigs. The sailors don't ask much. They give you broth and a cot. One offers you a boiled egg. You thank him. It comes out as a whisper. The yolk crumbles in your mouth like chalk, but you chew anyway. It tastes yellow. That's the only word that fits. Yellow. Like memory. Like sunlight you haven't earned. You lean against the rail later and watch the shoreline vanish behind smoke and snow. You don't wave. You just breathe. The captain gives you paper and ink, says the Admiralty will want a report. You say nothing. He shrugs, leaves the tools on the sill. You stare at them for an hour, then 2. The ink bottle sweats against the chill. You uncork it once, sniff it, then cap it again. The smell reminds you of rope and sweat and dead men. You shove the paper into your pack. You don't burn this one. Not yet. You sleep near the engine room. The hum a kind of lullaby. The heat is dry and constant. Your skin begins to flake. You pick at it slowly, watching little pieces of yourself fall away. You dock in Reykjavik. The light there is clean and thin, like a blade held to your throat. You walk on wooden legs. Everything smells wrong, like milk and pine and human breath. A man in uniform asks your name. You give it. It sounds strange in your own mouth. He asks what ship you were on. You say Erebus, then pause. Terror. 2. He blinks, he nods, he writes. You ask if Crozier made it. He shakes his head. Or maybe he didn't hear you. You don't ask again. They give you a bed, a bath, a comb. You use 2 of the 3. The bath hurts more than the frost ever did. Heat sinks into places you forgot you had. Your skin blooms with red patches like bruises rising in reverse. You lie in the water until it turns grey. Someone knocks, tells you your time is up. You don't answer. You watch the steam curl off your chest and try to remember what it felt like to sweat. You run your fingers along the edge of the tub, watch flakes of old skin drift away. You imagine them as tiny ships, all the parts of you that didn't make it back. You lower your head, close your eyes, and let your mouth fill with steam. They try to give you clothes, real clothes, a wool coat, new boots, a scarf someone knitted. You wear the coat, keep the rest. The scarf smells like soap. You hate it. You keep it anyway. A woman in the Port Authority asks if you want to write to family. You tell her no. You tell her they're gone. She offers to write it for you. You stare at her. Her teeth are too white, her eyes too kind. You nod and give her a name. One name. Not your mother, not your brother, just a friend, someone you made up. She smiles. You look away. There's a small chapel at the edge of the harbour. You sit outside it. Not for prayer. For quiet. For routine. The bells ring too high. The wood creaks too clean. You close your eyes and hear the ship again, the groan of the hull, the snap of canvas. You miss the smell of pitch, of wet rope and burnt grease. You miss the sound of boots overhead, the way the floor trembled when someone ran. You don't miss the faces. Not really. You don't want to remember what they looked like before they turned. You remember the eyes last. You always remember the eyes. When the Admiralty man arrives, you know before he speaks. He smells like old paper and travel. He calls you by your rank. You correct him. He doesn't flinch. He says they want your account. They want names. They want details. You give him none. You give him the spoon, just that. He looks at it like it's a threat. You tell him that's all you have. He nods, tucks it into a pouch like it's contaminated. He leaves behind a sum of money. Small, folded in an envelope. You don't touch it for 3 days. When you do, you use it to buy a belt and a tin cup. You move inland, just far enough that you stop hearing gulls. You find work chopping ice for a brewery. It's cruel work. Familiar. Your hands know what to do. You like the silence. You like the wait. The men don't ask questions. They see the way you walk, the way you eat. They give you space. Sometimes one of them hums, and you walk away. You don't hum anymore. You sleep on a cot in the back. You sharpen your knife every Sunday. Not because you need to, just to keep your fingers honest. Just to remember what it's like to hold something that cuts. The ice here is soft compared to the Arctic. Thinner. It cracks under boots sometimes. You step over those cracks like old memories. One day you slip and fall flat on your back. The sky knocks into you, white and spinning. A man helps you up. You don't thank him. He doesn't expect it. He nods once, like he's seen that look before. Maybe he has. Maybe you're not the only one dragged back from some place that didn't want to let go. You walk slower after that. Not because you're afraid. Because you know there's no such thing as unbroken ground. Only ground that hasn't betrayed you yet. One night you wake with your hands around your own throat. Not squeezing, just holding like you're trying to find a pulse. You sit up, cough until your chest aches, and drink from the tin cup. The water's stale. You drink it anyway. You lie back down, arms crossed over your chest as if expecting burial. The ceiling above you is wood. Not canvas, not stars. It feels wrong. You dream of snow and footsteps, and the crunch of something being dragged. You wake with your heart pounding, and a scream trapped behind your teeth. You never let it out. The barkeep's wife calls you captain once. You almost strike her. You don't. Your hand twitches, then drops. She doesn't notice, or pretends not to. You stare at your fingers for a long time after. They've forgotten how to do anything soft. You try writing once, on the back of a delivery slip. Just a name. It comes out in shaky loops. You tear it up and burn the pieces in the stove. You watch the ash swirl and imagine each flake is a piece of someone you failed. Someone who trusted you to come back. Someone who didn't get the choice. Spring doesn't arrive. It just stops being winter. The snow turns to slush. The sun lingers longer, like it's waiting for permission to warm the earth. You don't trust it. You wear your coat anyway. You chop faster now. Harder. The ice splits with each swing like it's agreeing with you. You lift, you drop, you lift again. The men don't speak to you much. They nod, offer soup, share tobacco. You take the soup, not the stories. You've heard enough stories. You carry yours like a wound that hasn't scabbed. Every time you touch it, it leaks a little. One afternoon you see a boy playing near the docks with a tin cup and a stick. He's building something, maybe a boat, maybe a grave. He hums while he works, low and off-key. You turn and walk the other way. You feel something hitch in your breath. You call it wind. You walk until the dock disappears, until the smell of salt is gone. You sit on a stone wall, coat buttoned to your chin, spoon tucked into the lining like always. You pull it out, turn it over in your hand, press the bowl to your lips. It's warm. For just a moment it's warm. There's a man at the tavern who says he served with Franklin once. He's loud, fond of ale, too clean around the collar. He tells stories you know aren't true. Erebus with the brass fittings. Officers drinking brandy under lamplight. No scurvy, no frostbite, no screaming. You don't correct him, you just sip your broth. One night he turns to you, points his mug and says, "You look like someone who's seen the ice." You meet his eyes for a long time. You don't blink, you say nothing. He laughs, a hollow sound. He doesn't speak to you again. The barkeep slips you a drink on the house. You leave it full on the table. You carve notches into your spoon handle now, one for each name you still remember. You stop at 19. Not because you run out of names, because you run out of space. The spoon's dulled from handling, the curve worn smooth where your thumb rests. Sometimes you hold it while you sleep, sometimes you dream of other tools, shovels, knives, broken compasses. You dream of meat boiled until it splits. You wake with your jaw clenched so tight it aches. You stretch your mouth in the dark like a wound. You whisper the names you didn't carve just to keep them. One day you walk into town and see a display in a merchant's window. Maps. Arctic charts. Fancy ones. Decorated with the sea monsters and golden compass roses. One is labelled Northwest Passage, projected route of the Franklin expedition. You stare at it a long time. Your breath fogs the glass. The line cuts across land you recognise. Land that nearly killed you. You want to scratch it out with your spoon. Instead, you walk away. That night you draw your own map in the frost on the window above your bed. No names, no lines, just a trail of dots heading nowhere. The brewery owner asks if you want a proper job indoors, lifting crates, staying warm. You shake your head, you say you like the cold. He frowns but doesn't push, he knows better. You keep chopping ice. The rhythm keeps you level, the sound keeps you company. You count strokes the way you used to count steps. You hum sometimes, just breath, no tune. When the sun sets, you wipe your blade and tuck the spoon back under your coat like it's something sacred. You walk back to the bunkhouse with your head down, boots dragging, spine curled inward like a question mark. Some nights you imagine going back, not in a dream, a real return, like you picture yourself in a boat, hugging the coast, stepping back onto that shore, see? Digging through snow to find the cairn, maybe the thought, oh, you're big. You don't know why. Maybe to bury it. Maybe just to look. You imagine finding a patch of your own blood, still frozen, still red. You imagine hearing footsteps again, not the wind's tricks, but real ones. You imagine seeing Crozier, standing upright, boots straight, coat buttoned. You don't speak. He doesn't either. You just nod like two men who shared something you'll never name. You get sick once, fever, chills, nothing dramatic. Just a slow burn that wrings the sweat from your body and leaves your mind hollow. You lie in your cot for 3 days, eyes open, watching the wall breathe. You dream of being buried in warm sand instead of snow. You dream of gnawing on bread that doesn't crack your teeth. A man from the docks brings you broth. He says you saved his son from a falling crate once. You don't remember. You nod anyway. You sip the broth. It tastes like salt and burnt garlic. It's the best thing you've tasted in a year. You cry into the cup, quietly. After the fever breaks, you walk outside and realise the world kept moving. The boats are back in harbour. Men shout again. There's mud instead of ice. Grass pokes up along the road. You stare at it like it's a ghost. A green, soft ghost that doesn't ask for blood. You kneel, touch it. It bends. You don't trust it. It's too alive. You stand and keep walking, eyes down. You pass 2 boys wrestling. One's bleeding from the nose, laughing. You flinch. You walk forward faster. You feel the warmth of the sun on your neck. It feels like a lie. You don't stop to enjoy it. They ask if you'll tell your story. A man from the papers, another from the government. They offer money, not much. They say it's for the record, for history. You ask if they were there. They look confused. You ask again. Were you there? Did you starve? Did you hear men die? Did you sleep beside them, then eat what was left? They go quiet. You thank them for their time. They don't follow up. One of them calls you uncooperative. You don't mind. The truth isn't for print. It's for the dead, and they already know. You buy a new coat. Not because you need one, because the old one smells like rot no matter how many times you scrub it. The new one is stiff and the collar scratches, but it doesn't scream when it gets wet. You sew the spoon into the lining just above the heart. You don't tell anyone. One day the seam will fray and someone else will find it. Let them guess. Let them wonder. You walk differently now, slower. Like you're carrying a weight nobody can see. You still work, still eat, still sleep. But everything's half a second behind, so like the world's moving ahead without you. A man at the tavern sings a song one night. Something old. Something from the Navy. It hits you like a punch. You stand and leave before the second verse. You don't come back for 2 weeks. When you do, he's gone. Replaced by a fiddler who plays happy tunes for drunk farmers. You sit in the corner, spoon under your coat, hands wrapped around a cup. You nod to the barkeep, he nods back. Neither of you says a word. That's how you like it. That's how you trust it. Words are dangerous. Words open things. You've sealed your story shut. You find a girl one day, maybe 6 or 7, squatting near the docks, building something in the dirt with matchsticks and twine. You kneel beside her without thinking. She doesn't flinch. You ask what she's making. She says a ship. You nod. You ask it if it has a name. She says yes, but won't tell you what it is. She asks if you've ever been on a ship. You say yes. She asks if it was cold. You pause too long. She shrugs, stands and walks off. Leaves the ship behind. You stare at it. One stick broken, one piece of twine fraying in the wind. You want to fix it. You don't. You dream that night of the deck again. Frost on every railing. Men lined like shadows, faces turned from you. You walk past them. None speak. None move. You reach the bow, grip the edge, and look down. There's no water. No ice. Just a hole. Black and deep and humming. You drop the spoon. It falls forever. You wake up with your fingers clenched into fists. Your palm has drawn blood from your own nails. You wash it off and don't bandage it. The sting is something you can understand, something earned. Someone posts a list at the docks, names of the lost, names of the found. Yours is there, misspelled. You stare at it for a long time. You could fix it, you don't. You watch as others read the list, eyes trailing, fingers twitching, mouths forming names they haven't said aloud in years. You wonder how many will lie about who they knew. You wonder how many will pretend they were on that ship, just to feel closer to death. You walk away before your name draws attention. You keep your collar turned high, boots slow, eyes low. Let them call you Ghost. The brewery changes owners. The new man doesn't recognize you. He asks your name, asks if you've worked ice before. You say long enough. He hires you. The work doesn't change. Ice is still heavy, still cold, still honest. You like that? Your hands are cracked again. Your shoulders burn after every shift. You sleep better. Harder. The kind of sleep that drops like a rock and doesn't rise until morning. You wake up sore and grateful. You make your own breakfast now. Salted bread. Broth with root. Sometimes you even boil eggs. You never eat meat from tins. A boy drops a crate on his foot one morning and cries like he's been stabbed. The others laugh. You don't. You kneel, check the damage, wrap it. He looks at you with red eyes and calls you sir. You flinch. You tell him to call you by your name. He asks what it is. You hesitate. You give him your last name only. It feels safer. He nods. He tells the others. They start using it too. You get used to hearing it again. It doesn't sound like it used to. It sounds heavier. Older. like it's been dragged across ice and fire and come back wrong. You answer anyway. You begin walking longer at night, past the town's edge, beyond the last of the lamp glow, into the fields where frost still clings low to the grass. There's a rhythm out here. Not like marching, not like rowing, just the slow, even beat of steps you choose. You breathe without seeing it. You listen to your own boots, your own breath, the soft rasp of fabric against fabric. You reach a wooden fence and lean against it. The stars are out. You trace them with your thumb, draw imaginary constellations. Sled, spoon, lost. You don't make wishes. Wishes are for people who've never heard a man starve. A letter arrives in spring. It's sealed with a navy crest. You don't open it. You know what's inside. A pension, probably. A statement. Condolences printed by someone who never froze their piss to the inside of a hammock. You burn it in your stove without reading it. The wax seal pops and spits. You watch the paper curl and blacken. You save the ashes, not on purpose. Just don't sweep them up for weeks. They stay there beside the kettle like a ghost that's earned its place. One night you lean in close and whisper, "Too late." You meet someone. Not all at once, just small talks, repeated glances, a shared bench on a slow day. She doesn't ask about your past. You don't offer it. She asks what you do. You say you lift ice and she nods like that's an answer. You ask what she does. She makes candles. You don't say anything, but something inside you cracks. You used to stare at tallow stubs like they were salvation. Now you eat with one lit beside your bed. The flame makes shadows on the wall that look like men you knew. You keep it lit anyway. She gives you a scarf one evening. Handmade, rough weave, the kind that itches slightly but doesn't make you bleed. You take it. You wear it. The itch is good. It reminds you that you're still alive. You walk with her once down by the harbour. She talks about gulls, you listen. You watch the water and imagine the Erebus rising from it, sails torn, ghosts manning the deck. You blink hard and see only the tide. She puts her hand on your arm. You don't flinch. That night you don't sleep with your back to the wall. That night you breathe deeper. You tell her your story. Not all of it. Just enough. You mention Franklin but not the dogs. You mention the ice but not the meat. You say hunger, not cannibal. You say loss, not madness. She listens. She doesn't speak when you pause. She doesn't cry. She doesn't turn away. When you're finished, she touches your wrist, then leaves you alone. The next day, she brings you soup in a dented tin bowl. It smells like garlic and onion. You eat it all. You say thank you. You mean it. You don't talk about the past again, but you stop eating in the dark. Summer comes late and weak. The sun never quite trusts itself. You wake to dew on your boots, not frost. The icework slows. You find yourself walking more, talking more. She teaches you how to dip wicks in wax, how to roll them tight and cut the excess. You watch her fingers, precise, sure. She offers you one candle, short and stubby, the base uneven. You keep it anyway. You don't light it. Just hold it. Turn it over in your palm. It smells like beeswax and smoke. You sleep with it under your cot for weeks before finally setting it on your shelf. You don't tell her. A man in town recognizes your name from an article, says you're the one who made it out, says you're a hero. You laugh in his face, not cruel, just flat. A noise without teeth. You tell him you did nothing heroic. You walked. You starved. You listened to men die. He blinks, says he didn't mean anything by it. You nod. You walk away. Later that night you think about whether anyone else would have survived in your place. You decide it doesn't matter. The ice didn't care who you were. It just took. You were what it spat out. The woman, her name is Anja, doesn't press, doesn't dig. She just shows up, brings bread, fixes your collar, teaches you the names of herbs. You get used to her hands, to the way she talks about things that grow instead of things that rot. One day she brings you a folded scrap of cloth. Inside is a single orange peel, dried and curled like a smile. You stare at it. You breathe it in. It smells like warmth, like laughter you didn't earn. You press it between the pages of your old ration book and hide it under your mattress. You go to church with her once, not for faith, for her. The pew creaks under your weight. The prayers sound like marching orders. The songs make your teeth hurt. You stare at the ceiling and think about the ship's beams, the way they groaned when the hull shifted. Someone offers you a candle to light. You take it. You hold it steady. The flame wobbles. You whisper a name you haven't said in months. Victor. You press the candle down into the sand. The wax drips. The light holds. You walk out with your hand still shaking. You don't stop waking up at night. The cold still lives in your joints, even in summer. Sometimes you reach for a blanket and find snow. Sometimes you hear chewing and sit bolt upright, heart galloping. But sometimes you wake and smell wax, hear breath, feel her beside you. You still don't speak, but you don't move away. You lie there, eyes open, watching the dark until the panic fades. You keep the spoon in a box now, tucked beside the candle stub and the dried orange peel. You don't touch it often, but you know it's there. That's enough. Autumn is quieter. The town folds in on itself. Boats packed, shutters tightened, roads turning to mud. You feel the chill early. It climbs your spine like a long-lost companion. You start wearing the coat again. Not because you need it, because it knows the cold better than you do. Anya notices. She doesn't comment. Just adds more garlic to the soup and wraps your wrists in linen before bed. You let her. You stop sleeping with your boots on. Some part of you still expects to have to run, but it doesn't twitch anymore. It just waits. You return to the chapel, not often, once a month maybe. You sit in the back, you don't kneel, you don't pray, you just listen. The rhythm of it calms you. The predictable rise and fall, the murmurs, the silence. You stare at the floorboards, worn smooth by shoes braver than yours. Once, during a hymn, you mouth the words. They feel strange in your mouth, like someone else's teeth. You leave early, but you return. You don't tell Anya. She doesn't ask where you go on some Sundays. You think she knows. That makes it easier. A man dies in the village. Oh, drunk, slipped on stone and cracked his skull. You help carry the coffin. Not because you knew him, because someone asked. The wood creaks. The weight feels too familiar. You grip it tight, shoulder stiff, back straight. You don't cry. But that night you polish your spoon. Just once. The handle's worn smooth. The notches faded, but they're still there. You count them in the dark. You don't stop at 19. You keep going. Whispering names you never said aloud, even when they died beside you. It doesn't bring peace, but it settles your breath. You write your story all at once in scraps, in margins. On the backs of ration slips, old newspapers, torn labels. You don't write it in order. Just scenes, the fire, the bones. The face of the man who carried the sack. The shape of a hand still curled around a button. You don't show it to anyone. You fold the pages into a bundle, tie them with wax string, and hide them under a loose board behind your stove. You don't lock it. If someone finds it, they'll know. If not, well, the ice will remember. That's enough. Anya wakes one morning and tells you she's dreamt of the sea. Not the ice. Warm sea, foaming waves, sunlight on a white sail. You ask if you were there. She smiles. You were cooking, she says. You laugh, full, loud from the chest. The first real one in years. She joins in. You sit on the edge of the bed, shoulders touching. You think about how far you've come. Not in miles, in weight, in silence. You don't say any of it. You just reach for her hand and hold it. She doesn't let go. The stove crackles. The window glows gold. The spoon stays in the drawer. Winter returns, but it's a softer one. The snow falls in drifts that whisper instead of roar. You walk the same paths. To the docks, to the chapel, to Anja's shop, where the air smells like wax and orange peel, and something you still can't name. You help her pour candles now, your hand steady. She shows you how to blend scents. Spruce, salt, clove. One smells like home almost. You don't say which one. You pour it slow, carefully. You don't shake. You never used to shake, but now you do only when you're tired. You call it muscle memory. You don't mean that as a joke. You open the drawer sometimes, just to check. The spoon's still there, the candle stub, the orange peel now flattened and pale. You touch them with one finger each. You don't take them out. You don't need to. They're relics now, not tools. You've stopped needing tools. You chop wood now instead of ice. You eat real bread. You sleep through the night sometimes. You no longer imagine yourself aboard the Erebus every time you hear wood creak. Just sometimes. You've stopped jumping at chewing sounds. The memories still come, but they don't bite as hard. You get invited to a gathering in the village hall, the kind with food and music and too much talking. You go, you sit in the back next to a fire, you watch the way people dance, loose, careless, arms high. You don't join, but you don't leave either. You catch Anya watching you from across the room. She raises an eyebrow, you nod once. That's enough. Someone hands you a drink, you sip it. It's warm and bitter and sweet all at once. You think of grog and boots, and how long it's been since you took anything without suspicion. You finish the drink, you ask for another. A stranger corners you near the door, half drunk and curious. He asks for the sex if the stories are true. If you really ate what the papers hinted, if you really walked across the whole Arctic alone, you look him in the eye and say, "Would it change anything if I did?" He stares. He doesn't answer. You step past him and back into the snow. You walk home slower this time, feeling the frost settle into your scarf. You don't mind. The cold feels like memory now. It touches but doesn't claim. You open the door to your cottage and smell stew. You take off your boots without sitting. Anya kisses you that night. No ceremony, no build-up. Just a soft thing, mid-sentence, while you're talking about sleds. You go quiet. You don't kiss her back right away. You look at her. She waits. You lean forward and rest your forehead against hers. You don't cry, you just breathe. When she pulls away, she says nothing. You nod. You press her hand once. That night, you leave the drawer slightly open, just a crack. Let the past breathe a little. You don't tell it to leave, but you let it know it's not the only thing in the room anymore. You take her to the ridge one morning, the place where you used to walk when you first arrived. The fields are blanketed in snow, smooth and untouched. She brings a thermos of coffee, strong and bitter. You both sit on the stone wall sipping in silence. You tell her about the cairn. Not all the details, just enough. She doesn't speak, just listens, eyes steady, breath clouding in front of her like smoke. You trace a path in the snow with your boot. She sets a gloved hand on your knee. You rest your palm on top of hers. You don't look at each other. You don't need to. The village holds a memorial in spring, something simple. Names read, bells rung. You hear yours mispronounced again? You don't correct them. You stand in the back, cap low, hands folded. A boy places a stone on a pile near the church steps. It's meant for someone else. You add one too. Yours is small, black, flat. You don't label it. Afterward, someone pats your back. Another nods. You nod back. You think about the names you did not share, the ones the list forgot. You whisper them on your walk home, each one like a flint strike, sharp and quick. You don't cry. A letter arrives again, this one from a museum. They're creating a memorial for the expedition. They want artifacts, personal items, pieces of the story. You don't reply. You go to the drawer, hold the spoon. It's warmer than you expect. You wrap it in cloth, carry it outside, sit by the stovehouse and watch it in your lap. You imagine it behind glass, labelled with your name, maybe a date. It feels wrong, like cutting open something still breathing. You hold it tighter, then take it back inside. You tuck it deeper into the drawer. Some stories aren't for display. That night you tell Anya the rest. You speak slowly. She holds your wrist the whole time. You don't dress it up. You say what you saw, what you carried, what you ate. She doesn't look away. She doesn't speak until you're finished. Then she says, "I'm still here." You nod. You sit with her in silence. You feel the weight lift, not gone, but shifted. Move to another part of the body, somewhere you can carry it better. That night your dreams are quiet. No screams, no chewing, just wind across snow and someone beside you who breathes evenly until morning. You build a small box the next week. Rough pine, hinges from the workshop. Inside you place the spoon, the candle, the orange peel, and a strip of sailcloth you've kept folded behind a rafter. You don't bury it. You place it high on a shelf next to the books you've started collecting. It doesn't need hiding anymore. It just needs rest. You wipe the lid once, close it gently, and walk outside into the thin spring sun. The air smells of thaw. You breathe it in and let it out slow. You turn toward home, boots steady, coat unbuttoned. You marry in autumn, small ceremony, no music, no uniforms, just firelight and hands held. Anya wears a green ribbon in her hair. You wear your best shirt, sleeves too long, collar a little tight. You speak your name clearly when the priest asks. It feels right this time. She squeezes your fingers. You squeeze back. No one from your old life is there. You don't mind. You carry them anyway. You carry them in your ribs, in your palms, in the breath between words. After the vows, you drink something sweet and thick and you smile. Not wide, not for show, just enough to say, I'm still here. The first snow falls that night. Soft, quiet. You watch it through the window with a blanket over your knees and her head on your shoulder. The world turns white again, but it doesn't take you this time. You sit still. You drink warm broth and eat bread that steams when torn. She reads aloud from a book about trees. You listen to the names, larch, ash, birch, and repeat them silently. You still sleep lightly, you still wake to shadows. But now, when the panic hits, there's another breath in the room. You match yours to it. You wait. You come back. Years pass, you stop counting them. The drawer becomes just a drawer. The box on the shelf gathers dust. You don't forget it. You just don't need to open it anymore. One day you had a piece of paper inside, your full name written cleanly. No rank, no dates, just the name. You seal the box again and leave it there. You chop wood, you tell jokes, you fix your own boots, you teach a boy how to sharpen a blade without cutting himself. He asks if you ever saw war. You say, not that kind. He nods. You nod back. The cold still comes for you in the joints. Your hands stiffen in early winter. Your teeth ache when the wind shifts. You take it as a reminder. You walk slower now, sit longer, but you still walk, still show up, still lift what you can, you still wear the coat, still wrap the scarf. When Anya hands you a bowl of soup, you hold it with both hands. You smell it before tasting. You eat slowly. Always slowly. That's how you stay alive. That's how you remember. That's how you give the ghosts room at the table without letting them eat. You die in spring, in sleep, without warning. She finds you with your hand resting on the blanket, your mouth slightly open like you were about to say something. She cries, but not loudly. She lights a candle, the one from the drawer. She reads your name once, softly, then places it beside your bed. The box is buried with you, sealed shut. No display, no speeches, just dirt and wind and quiet. Somewhere far north, ice cracks over forgotten bones. Somewhere closer, someone touches a wooden spoon and doesn't know why it matters, but it does. It always will.